So you have your color chart laid out like this. I said you could label them lightly if you want to help yourself paint in the right spots. You want to make sure that you paint everything in the correct order. You can see this is only one coat, and you can see it doesn't coat as well. So you're gonna have a hard time covering something that you messed up on. So I would try really hard to label everything properly the right way so you know what to do. You can kind of see my letters. So what I did was I put an R for red, skip one, orange, skip one, yellow, skip one, green, skip one blue, skip one violet, back to red, and then the color in between you can get by the two colors that you labeled. So red and violet, I know it's red violet. So RV. Blue and green is blue and green. So that'll help you label everything so that you know what order everything goes in for you to paint. You can also label your little spots too. So this is my complementary colors, my red and green, blue and orange, yellow and violet. These are my monochromatic colors, which you can also go back in with an eraser if you want to and erase out like the heavy line before you start painting. So you'll still see the ghost image on there, but it won't be as thick and as heavy. So that might be something that, if it bothers you, that you might be able to see your pencil lines. You can go back in and erase what you did, but you can still see the lines, so they're still there. They're just not as dark. So that's why my monochromatic ones you can't see anymore because I erased those. In your art kits, you have these tempera cakes. So normally you'd be using paint out of a bottle and mixing your colors and all that, but since everyone needs their own set, you guys have these tempera cakes, and they aren't watercolor. So even though they might look like watercolor, which is similar in that you add water to it to activate it, tempera cakes are tempera paint. They're not watercolor paint. So they're a little bit different. You are going to need to mix some of these colors, so you also have a palette in your art kit that you got, and you have two paintbrushes that I put in there, and all of these were put in there in the beginning of the school year, so your first pickup. So everything was in the first pickup. So you have everything you need. You will need a container to put water in, so any empty container will do. If you don't have anything at home that you can use a glass and put it in the dishwasher. This paint isn't toxic, and this paint will not ruin your clothes. It will come out in the wash if you do end up with paint on yourself, so you don't have to worry too much. So any container will do with water. And then a paper towel just so that you can wipe your paintbrush off on. When you're ready to start painting, start wherever on the color wheel you want. I started with red just because it's usually at the top. It's usually the first one. I just prefer that. In order to activate the paint, because these are like dry cakes right now, what you need to do is get some water on your brush, and I would use your bigger brush, and you're going to just, dance it around on the tempera cake to kind of pick up some of that pigment. And you want to activate as much as, you don't want to do this for like hours to make a giant puddle. You just need to get some paint on your brush. And I would start with your primary and secondary colors first, then back up and do the one in the middle, just like you labeled them. So I'm starting with yellow. I know yellow is a light color, so I definitely want to erase at least the Y on here because that's never going to go anywhere, and my Y here. So what you do is you use your paintbrush. You're going to outline it first, so you're going to press your brush down, and you're going to drag it around your circle, whatever shape. Doesn't have to be a circle. Whatever spot you have to color yellow, you're going to drag it around there. And then turn your paper. So whatever's more comfortable to you, always go in that direction. So I like to paint down towards myself. So I line it up with a line, and I drag my brush around. What you don't want to do is like this weird, like dotted, like jagged line. So nice and easy, drag it around, and then fill up your space. By taking the time to outline it first, then you have the shape you need to fill in. And it keeps it neater, and it keeps it in place. So I also want to do this. Smaller, my cool color, or complementary colors over here. You are going to have to do 2 coats of tempera. So just keep that in mind. And then you're going to let that dry. Now I have to do yellow-orange, and obviously I don't have yellow-orange in this palette, so that means I need to mix it. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your palette, and you're going to get some paint. And you always mix dark to light, no matter what kind of paint you're painting with, whether it's oil paint or watercolor or anything. You always add dark paint to light paint because it takes far less paint. If I wanted to make orange and I started with red and I tried to add yellow to it, it would take me a ton of yellow paint to get that red to change because that red's so dark. So you always start with your light color and you add the dark to it, and you add it sparingly because you can always add more. If you make it too much, too dark, or too orange, it'll again take me a bunch of yellow paint to get back to that color. So I wiped off some of the yellow in this little cup right here. And you're gonna rinse off your brush because you don't want to contaminate your colors. And you can let the paint dry in here. Like this is from earlier this morning when I was starting this. It's already dry. And your next project, you have to mix your own colors. So just add a little bit of water right back to it, and it mixes it right back up. So I'm going to take the tiniest bit of red, like barely on my brush, and then mix it in here because I want a yellow-orange. And that's actually a perfect color of yellow-orange. So then I take it, and I do the same thing. So I drag it around the outline, outside to outline it. And then fill it in. And then I can leave that for later. Well, I don't need it anymore, but if I needed it, like if I was going to do an analogous, I would paint that too. So then I would just keep on going, keep on moving. This dries pretty quickly. So it shouldn't take you a ton of time. You just need to, make sure that you mix up enough colors so that you have enough. So again, I would move on to green. Rest your hand on the table. Outline first. So you're always outlining. And then filling it in. And then fill it in inside. So you want to make sure these are neat. The last thing that you want to keep in mind and remember when you're working is if your water is turning colors because of the paint you're using, get fresh water. Don't continue to use this water because it'll make your colors really muddy and off. So make sure you always keep changing your water out as you're working.